am so excited to chat with you guys. I hope everybody had a great weekend. I just got out of the shower, had a long weekend, graduation parties and out of town guests and all the things. But I am really excited to dig into today because I was actually thinking about what would be a good topic for today's live. And this morning I was scrolling through Facebook, which I do in the morning sometimes, and I am a member of a couple of different groups for people who are looking to get organized. And some of them are regional, some of them are national or global, whatever. And this one woman posted a question, and normally I'm a little bit of like just a kind of a voyeur in the groups. I'm not super active in those groups, but I like to see what's going on. I like to see what questions people are asking. I want to hear what people are talking about just so I can kind of keep a pulse of what's going on in the industry and what do people want to know about or what's happening. So there was a question in there that really, really struck me. And this woman, and I know there's no tone in writing, but I really felt this, the only word I can use was kind of like a sense of desperation. And it was really in the language that she used, where she said, was asking for help and advice for anybody that really wants to get organized but is struggling with how. She said she's read a bunch of books, she's, watched videos on how to get organized. She, has bought tons of products to try to help her get organized. But as much as she is wanting to do it, she's really struggling with the execution, and motivation was one of the things that she mentioned. And I took that as an opportunity to kind of direct her into giving her some suggestions of maybe listening to my podcast with regard specifically to my series on clutter and the Enneagram and the framework that I'm doing. And it got me thinking so much about the importance of understanding the why. And I know I've talked about it a bunch, but really understanding not just the strategy of how to do something, but why you're going to do it and what is going to resonate from a motivation standpoint with each individual person. Because when you look at people struggling with clutter, it is not black and white. It is so filled with shades of gray because clutter is emotional. And even if you're not struggling, if someone would have said that to me 5 years ago, I would have said, well, that's part of it. But to really understand the level of emotion that clutter brings up. And for some people, it's anxiety. For people who despise clutter, seeing that is anxiety producing. So there is an emotional component. Other people, they want to reclaim control. So it's almost like a control issue, which is tied in from an emotional connection. And so when you start to look at, again, not just that someone comes in there and is a slob, or somebody comes in there and is OCD, control freak neat, but to really peel back the layers to saying, what is my personality telling me? And how do I keep it in that healthy space? Because what happens is all of our personalities, and depending on how we're wired the way that we are. But that doesn't mean that we're destined to be something for a specific amount of time. And so it means that if we're aware of what our strengths are, then we can maximize those. And then we can also understand where our blind spots are. Where are specifically in the areas of clutter, where do we feel that our control freak can become a hindrance? It can become a hindrance to the other people in our lives. What are we, and why do we feel the need to control? And then understanding, how do we let go of it? Because I know a lot of the people that follow, that might be even watching and listening to this, are thinking, I don't really have a ton of clutter. I might be a professional organizer, or I might really just enjoy organizing. But understanding how you relate, and that's why I've always used the term, even before I knew the Enneagram, I would say, what is your relationship with clutter? And people would look at me, and I really was had difficulty articulating because I didn't necessarily have the language. But now that I have incorporated that wisdom and that framework, blending the two, Enneagram knowledge, knowing your strengths and struggles as and how that manifests itself in your physical stuff, because clutter is always just the symptom of something else. So if you are finding it's difficult for you to take action, you either haven't found the right strategy that clicks, which is tactical, but in order to find that strategy, you've got to peel back and do a little bit of self-discovery. And that doesn't necessarily have to be like you're in therapy. It can be, but it couldn't be just surrounding yourself with information on understanding a little bit more about who you are and why you're wired. And you can get that information from podcasts. You can get that information from digital courses. You can get that information from books. There's a lot of different areas that doesn't necessarily have to send you into, spending a lot of money, or again, just say to you that there is no hope for you. Because what I saw, or what I sensed from this woman's post was she was really waving that white flag of like, I have tried everything and it's not working. And I always make the analogy whenever I'm talking to people, whenever I'm talking to a group and giving, a workshop on clutter, I make an analogy to like exercise or eating right. And we all know that we want to see results. We want to start, even if it's a little win. If you're dieting or you're watching what you're eating, even if it's 1 pound, to see the scale moving in the direction that you want it to go is huge. And sometimes just that little bit of reinforcement that, okay, I'm on the right path is what we need. So but if you know that you're doing all of this stuff and you're not seeing any immediate growth, and again, it doesn't mean that everything's going to be fixed overnight, but if you don't start to see a little bit of incremental change and improvement, then that gets demotivating, and we don't want that. And because dealing with clutter and organization is a lifelong endeavor, it's not just one and done. It is, you really have to find out, how can I do this so I'm not white knuckling my way through life? How can I do this where it's not, okay, I know this is what I have to do. Just like if someone says to me, you have to cut out a food group, or you can only eat X amount of calories. Like that's just not a sustainable way to live. And because this is part of our lives, and it shouldn't be the dominant part of our lives, but because being organized and living with minimal clutter, because again, we're going to always have pockets of periods of our lives that may, hopefully on a temporary basis, be filled with clutter, but finding, okay, what strategies can I apply that are going to work for me, that are going to give me that light bulb moment? And I always say, it's really, when you start to listen to other people's struggles and hear how what's worked for them, I think that gives you that sense of, I'm not alone in this. And so hopefully I directed that woman who wrote in on this, in this Facebook group, gave her a couple different resources, and pointing her in the direction of just doing a little bit of understanding, because I think we have this tendency to look at what we're seeing out there as what we should be doing. I'm air quoting what we should be doing. And if it doesn't kind of fit with us, it doesn't resonate with us, we know that, but we might still try to plow ahead. And anybody that's done that in any area of their lives knows that just, you can only do that for so long until you hit a roadblock and you're just like, I'm done. And that's when usually people regress. And again, you can liken that to exercise, you can liken that to budgeting, you can liken it to so many facets of our lives that are just weaved into the fabric of everything that we're doing. So I would love to hear from you guys any of the areas that you might be struggling in, or any of the things that were kind of light bulb moments for you. So make sure that you comment in the DMs. Also, I do want to say that we are posting all of these Instagram lives now on our YouTube channel. So you can get us in two places. So if you're like, oh, I want to, this was great and I want to send a friend there, and you don't feel like scrolling back through any of my lives, you can just head on over to our YouTube channel, and we have a space for all of our Monday lives. So I think that's going to be it. I don't really feel like we need to go through a whole long thing today. I just wanted to get you guys thinking about it and understanding that it's really important to really connect the right strategy with people based on their motivation. So I know I have a few of my fellow SBO partners who are professional organizers that might be watching this. And again, this is why I think it is really important. And even if you're not in my partner program, if you're a professional organizer, I think it's really important to understand the Enneagram and incorporate that teaching in when you're working one-on-one with clients. And that will give you an indication as somebody who is the leader, the expert, the go-to person for your clients who's looking for help and empowerment, for you to be able to ask those probing questions. If they don't know their Enneagram type, you can help them by just asking a series of questions, kind of figure out a little bit about where they might be struggling and give them strategies that apply specifically for those Enneagram types. Because again, you want that light bulb moment to click. And I've talked to so many people that have said, I tried this, I tried that, none of it worked. And then once you started speaking my language, it all of a sudden made sense. And that's when sustainable change happens. And so whether you're on the giving end of it or the receiving end of it, I think it's so, so important to understand who we are. So that's it. I hope everybody has a great week ahead. I cannot believe that we are midway through July at this point. That is super crazy. But again, I'm here. Again, feel free to DM me. Head on over if you want to join our Facebook group, This Organized Life Podcast. The podcast obviously is wherever you get your podcasts, and you can listen or watch on YouTube. All right, guys, take care. Have a great week.